Right. So we started recording. Right. So we use loops to sort of skip the iterative and the repetitive work. The lecture wanted I do not know what is Python. Okay, so I think we have to recap first. Okay, so Python primarily is a programming language, and if you go through the top two links, I think you can go through them and you'll have a very good understanding of how to install. Like there is everything from how to install, how to use the basics of it, how to name variables, how to use the conditionals. They are separated into lectures, and there are three lectures present there. You can go through them, and anyone can get a very good idea. So what all we've covered till now is that the first lecture was installing and giving a brief overview of everything, small things that we're going to cover in the basics course. The first lecture, then the second lecture was focused on variables. How do we use variables and mathematical functions? Then we focused on conditionals. That is the if this happens, then what do you do? And we also looked at the basics of loops, which we are going to continue now, right? And if this appears to be difficult to grasp because you have no preliminary knowledge, maybe you can first go through the links and then maybe you can come back here or you can look at the recording of this session, right? So again, so we use this to skip iterative and repetitive work, right? So what there are two types of loops that we primarily use in Python. One is a while loop, the other is a for loop, right? So a while loop means that this code will execute as long as that condition is true, right? So the condition passed till the time that particular condition is true, this will continue to be executing. So this will continue to execute, right? And for loop means that it will iterate for every item in a range or a list or a tuple or a set. These are things that we will focus in the session today. But primarily a for loop is something that goes once to each value in the given range or the given set, right? So these are the types of loops. Is everyone clear till now? Like, do you guys understand what are loops and how do we work with them? I will be showing you the code side of things in a second. Great, great. So I think people are clear with this. Okay. So now we will concentrate on the while loop first, and then look at the for loop. So while loop is that while loops will execute as long as the condition is satisfied, as we just discussed, right? So if you look at the small sort of example code that I've given here, you can see that a variable named I has the value 1, and while I is less than or equal to 10, that is I has to be either equal to 10 or less than 10, then we will print attempt number this I, right? Attempt number the variable, and then we'll add 1 to I. Now this might be confusing, but if you go there with us for the last lectures, you would have a very crystal clear idea of what this is, right? Now very clearly we will see that attempt number 1 would be here all the way till attempt number 10, where we will see that now I is equal to 11, which does not satisfy this condition. That is why it will stop, right? Now this is the syntax. We simply write while in small letters. In the bracket we put the condition that we're using to sort of run the code, and inside it we write the code that we want to run, right? Let me share the code part and you guys can sort of tell me if it actually makes sense to you, right? Do let me know if my screen is visible for all.
So your screen is visible to us.
Perfect, perfect. So let us say that there's a variable called start, right? And start is equal to 0 in the beginning. Then what I do is while start is less than 15, print um, hello comma start, right? I know that some part of this might be a little sort of out of place for people who joined us just today, but we have been sort of building up to this from the very beginning, right? And here we put start plus start is equal to start plus 1. And people who've been with us and who know this already know that this is same as writing star plus equals to 1. Right, so I'll just remove this. We'll know what to do. Right. So now when I run this, I will give me 1 second to connect. Yeah, connecting. Oh, it takes a little bit of time. Yeah, connected. It should run now. Yeah. So you can see that the way we have written is it prints the hello that we gave and start becomes 0, then 1, then 2, 2, 2. All the while it goes till 14. What that means is that in the when start was 14, it became start plus equals to 1, then it came 14 plus 1, that is 15, and that does not satisfy this condition, right? That is why we printed only till 14. If we wanted to print 15 as well, we could have simply written a less than equal to. So now it would even print 15, but at 16 it will stop, right? So is the execution of while loop clear to everyone? Anyone could turn on the mic or that type. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Nikhil. Right. So now we will look into the for loop, and once we do that, then I will tell you which one do you use when, right? So a for loop primarily means that you have a sequence, a long list of numbers, a range of numbers, and the variable that we use, that becomes every single one of those variables one by one, and it automatically iterates through all of them, right? Here you can see in this part of the code, it says for I, that is the variable, in range. Explain do while loop. Ramandeep, do while loop is not present in Python as it is in C, but I will tell you how do we create a do while loop situation here. Just give me 1 second and I'll show that to you. And which loop is more fast. Sort of in terms of complexity, the loop does not, we do not take that into consideration, especially in problems of medium to sort of small to medium scale. If you're looking at the which one do you use when, I will be focusing on that just after we're done with for loop, right? Correct. So a for loop is used to iterate over a sequence, right? So we have a sequence, a range of numbers, and in the example you can clearly see that the variable will first become 1, 2, dot, 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 till the time it is 10. So any range in Python, we've already talked about this several times in past sessions. It goes from beginning to ending minus 1, right? So if we have 11 here, it will not go up to 11, it will go till 10. As in while we could see that less than 15 went till 14. So similarly, it will go from 1 to 10, right? So this is how for loop works. In the syntax is for variable in whatever condition we put, that is the range or the list or the word or whatever, and we run the code. Now I will show you the code side of things, and then it will be very clear what I mean by condition. Right? So let us say for I in range 1 to 20, right? And I print hello, oh, I'm so sorry, hello, comma I, right? What this would do is that it will print again what we did on top. Hold on. Yeah, so it'll print almost the same thing, but of course we went till 20, so it went till 90. So you can see ending minus 1, 20 minus 1, that is 19, right? So this is the for loop. Now, for loop can also be used, while can also be used, but for is something that we very, very commonly use to iterate through lists or words as well, right? So let us say that I have a word hello, right? So what this would do is that it would treat each character as one value of the range and then print first H, then E, then 1, then L, then L, then O. So you'll be able to see it, just give me. Yeah, so you'll be able to see hello, right? So you can see each character is printed. Now, similar thing we can work with lists when we focus on lists in a couple of minutes. Then I'll show you that as well, and that is very very useful, and it will be very beneficial for us if we are well versed with at least the for loop, right? Now, if we talk about why do we when do we use while and when do we use for, if you can see that in while we do not know this number of iterations that are going to occur. Now let us assume that a problem is there where we have to execute till I Ramandeep, this is Google Colab. I'll put the link in the chat. This is completely free of cost, and you can create an account here just using a Google ID, Gmail ID, right? So we have to execute till the time I is divisible by, let's say, 17, right? So this is something that we can do. Now, sorry, let's say divisible by 17, right? So this is what we are going to do. Now in while loop, what do we do is we simply say, let's say I, so we have to execute all values of I. So we say I is equal to 0 while I percentage 17 is not equal to 0. Now this is something, if like everyone not clear, percentage means remainder, and if anything is divisible by a number, the remainder should be 0, right? So while the remainder is not 0, we keep running, and when the remainder becomes 0, we stop, right? So somebody had a question as to how to use do while. I will also demonstrate this using do while, right? It is not traditionally do while, but it simulates it, sort of replicates the functionality, right? So while I divided by 17 is not equal to 0, we print number is to, so sorry, number is to I, right? So it will print all numbers for us while this percentage is not 0. Oh, so sorry. And I plus equals to 1, and yeah, yeah, sorry. Maybe should have, yeah, perfect. So 0 would of course give us a 0 there. So we start with 1. And here you can see we printed in 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, whatever. And at 16, it gave us it stopped us because we had because 17 is of course divisible by 17, right? It will get 0. And because it will have 1 as a quotient and 0 as a remainder, right? Now let us assume we start from 18. So now it will go from 18 till 34, right? Just before 34, at 33 it will stop, right? This makes sense to everyone. Does everyone understand how this is working in while loop? We'll show you the same thing in for loop as well. Is this clear to everyone? Just somebody just turn on your microphones or just put it in the chat, please.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Right, so we know how to do this. Yes, please. Oh, did somebody have a query? Okay, let's continue. Right, so this is how we did the thing in while loop. Now let us do the same thing in for loop. So for I in range, now this is the difference, right? In while we do not have to specify a range. That means that because here it is remainder by 17, but there might be complex problems where you don't understand till what number you have to go, right? So what you do in for is, say, one way would be to simply say for 1 till 10,000, and what we do is then we use a if, that if I percentage 17 equal to 0, then break. Now, last time we looked into control statements, and in a couple of seconds we'll revise all of them. But what break would do is that the moment this condition is reached, it would stop the loop, right? And we can say now here we can print number is to I, okay, and you'll be able to see that will give us the same result, and at 16 it will stop. But given that we are sort of assuming a maximum root, what if I say the number was different, or we are taking the user's input to say give us the number and we'll tell you all the numbers before its first divisible number, right? Then it will be difficult for us to find a range that you need to use, right? So that is why while would help us here. Now, there are several other ways of doing this. There are ways to sort of cycle through values based on input and creating a maximum value as is. But this is how you would do in for loop. Now, if we wanted to do in a do while loop, so for everyone who doesn't know, do while is very popular in C, C++. We use it a lot, and Python is built on C++. So it should be supported, but inbuilt Python does not support that. But if you look very closely, the condition that we are putting in, this is something that creates it, that gives us the same result. But one other way of doing is this: while you simply write true here, so it will execute infinitely, right? And what you do is you simply put up whatever code you want. So I wanted to let me the same problem, right? So I'll put I is equal to 1, and here I will put if, very similar to what we do with the for loop, if I percentage 17 is equal to 0, break. And here I say print number I, right? So what this would do, this would give me the exact same printing. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I forgot to add that. I like, if I'm very honest, I generally do not use for a while loop. I am very comfortable with using for loop. It would solve my purpose, but yeah. So here you can see that every time this is the do, and this would act as while, right? So this is the condition that if we will break, and till the time that if that condition is not met, we keep on going. Right, so it gives us the same result, but these are sort of three ways of doing this exact same question. Right? Is this clear to you? Whoever was asking for do while, Ramandeep? Perfect. To others as well, I'm assuming it is clear to you as to what is the difference between using for and while and do while, so like the do while implementation of while. If anyone has any queries, they can ask right now, or else I'll move ahead. Correct. So let us sort of move ahead. So next, what we're looking into is nested loops. So you can use loops inside of loops, inside of loops, inside of loops. So you do this when you have to say go into a 2D shape, or you have to create something that is a list inside a list that we'll look into a couple of seconds, or values in values, all of those. So that helps you when you're sort of building that, right? So we'll look at a nested loops. First, let's look into control statements. So there are three control statements. Pass is the least used one, but pass, what pass does is that you create a function, simply put pass inside, so that you don't execute any code, but that function remains syntactically valid. So consider it to be a null statement, and it will pass, but the loop will function and the value will be passed outside, right? Now in the continue statement, this causes the loop to sort of skip whatever part of the code is left beyond before it, and it continues the loop. So what happens is that, let's say I was when we broke the statement in the last code, it stopped the loop and went out, right? But if you had used continue, it would have skipped 17 and it would have gone to 18, right? So it would have been 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16, then 18, 17 would have been skipped. So continue sort of skips that loop. Break terminates the loop, right? Are the control statements clear to you, all of you? I want you guys to be very clear if you are good with this, so that we can sort of move ahead, and also keep this in mind, because we're going to have a hands-on sort of thing at the end. Anyone, if you could just turn on your mic or sort of text, send me a message, it would be great. Okay, okay, Muskan. So let me sort of bring you to the code, and we'll be able to look into this, right? So let's say I want to put for I in range 1 to 10, right? And I want to say that if I is equal to 4, then continue, and I will print I. So what this would do, it would print every value from 1 to 10, and when it reaches 4, it will skip the fourth print, right? So you can see that I became 1, it printed 2, it printed 3, it printed. When it came to 4, it said continue. So it skipped the print and went to the next value, that is 5, right? And then it went 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is this clear? Does that clear it for everyone? Muskan? Perfect. Perfect. So now let us look into nested loops as well. So let's say I want to say for I in range 1 comma 5, right? And then I put for j in range 1 comma, let's say I put it 5 comma 10, right? And I print I is I comma j is equal to comma j. Okay. So what this would do, it would print all the values of I and j correspondingly. So you can see there are several values that have come here. That is because loops work in this manner that once I get into the upper loop, I can exit from that loop only and only if all the code inside of it is executed. Right now, we go to the next loop. Now the next loop will also follow the same rule. So first the I becomes 1, right? It goes inside. Now it goes to the code. Now j becomes 5. Then after this I does not change, I remains 1. J becomes 6, j becomes 7, 8, 9, right? And then when j is finished, it has printed everything. Then I becomes 2. Then again j becomes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And then 3, 4, and that is it. So you can see that 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is this clear to everyone? Does everyone understand how nested loops would work?
So can you repeat the code? I did not understand.
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm too far. Yeah, thank you so much for letting me know. I'll be a little slow from now. Right. So here, if you can see, I for the for loop governs that I will go from every value from 1 to 5. That is 1 to 5 minus 1. That is 4. And j will go from every value from 5 to 10. Right. That is 5 to 9, of course. So now when I try to print, when I is equal to 1, right, 5 becomes, then it goes to the inner loop. Then the inner loop j becomes equal to 5, right? Then j becomes 5, right? And then in the next iteration, I remains 1 and j becomes 6. Then j becomes 7. Then j becomes 8. J becomes 9. And then this loop is done, right? So now ith loop becomes 2. Then j becomes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Same, then I becomes 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that is when we're done. Now, is it clear to everyone? I'm writing code. I understand, Raman, Deep, you can write code up with me, and that is wonderful. I'll try to be a little slow, right? Perfect. So, is it clear to everyone? Achintya, is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Right. So this is what is nested loops, and I am assuming that's clear to everyone. Now we are going to start with data structures, right? If anyone has any query, no matter how trivial, anything, if they have, let me know right now, so that we can sort of tackle those before we move to data structures. Because data structures is something that would sort of be a little heavy on you. Just turn on your mic and let me know of your query. And I'll repeat again, if anyone wants, they can turn on their camera, then we could have a more interactive session that way. So I'm assuming there are no queries. Okay, perfect. So now we will be moving to data structures. Yeah. So now we're looking to data structures, right? So what are the data structures? They are very simply just structures of data, right? So there are huge collections. Let's say that your school, your class has 20 students, and all students have 5 subjects each. So you would have to name 100 variables saying student A Python marks, student A physics marks, student A chemistry marks, dot 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 dot, then student B all five, right? This is a very difficult process. What if you could simply create a list of items as student A, the first is Python, second is physics, third is maths, chemistry, and English. Second student, same, third, fourth, fifth. Then in this manner, you have to create only 20 lists, right? Now, what if you can create only one list that has 20 small lists inside? Right? So these are sort of putting data into structures and then creating a structures of structures. The second thing that I mentioned that is known as nested data structures, that is say list inside a list or a set inside a list or any of this. So what that would mean is that we'll have a list, we have a list of lists of lists of lists, right? So this is something that we will focus on in the next session. But today we are going to look at the four inbuilt data structures that we have. That is list, tuple, set, and dictionary. We will look at what all you can do with each, what all you can't do with each. We can look at differences of all four, and we will look at how do you create them, how do you use them, and what when do you use which, and which is the most important and which is sort of the least used one. Okay. Perfect. So here, ordered and unordered, if you can very clearly see, there are several structures of data. List is a collection that is ordered and changeable. Here, ordered does not mean that they are in order, but it means that every time you sort of print it or use it, what the value that was at the first position will remain there. Whereas in a set, it might change, right? You might have created a set saying 1, 2, 3, 4, but when you print it, it might come as 3, 2, 4, 1, right? So it is unordered. It doesn't save the order. That is unindexed rather. It doesn't save that, right? Same goes now for dictionary. In the last version of Python, that was 3.6 and below, it was unordered, but now it is ordered after version 3.7, right? Tuple and list are also ordered, but set allows no duplicate members. A dictionary has keys and values. We will focus on them in a couple of minutes. And no keys can be duplicate members. Just listen to all of this now. We will focus on each data structure in a couple of seconds, right? And all of them have special features that we will look into in a couple of seconds, right? So I'm assuming everyone's clear with what are data structures. Perfect, perfect. If there are any queries, just put them in the chat and we will focus on all of them. Right. So here we have given examples of data structures. And if you look very closely, you'll be able to see that the list has a square bracket, tuple has a normal parentheses, set has curly brackets and values, and dictionary has curly brackets, and it has sort of one value is to the next value. This means this is the key, brand, model, and year is the key, and Ford, Mustang, and 1964, these are the values, right? So this is key is to value, second item key is to value, right? So this is how a dictionary works, and this is how you declare all of them, right? This is how you create sort of how do you identify one data set from one data structure from another, right? Now we will look into the difference between the data types, right? So here you can very clearly see that there are lists. A list is a non-homogeneous data structure which stores the elements in a single row and multiple rows and columns, right? So you can have elements in a single row and you can have say multiple rows and columns. That is sort of if you have a matrix, you have a list of lists, right? Let us not focus on that, but we will sort of have them, right? Now, again, you can have say, you can see that the list is represented by a square bracket, tuple can be represented by parentheses, set by curly bracket, and dictionary also by curly braces, right? Now, in a list, it allows you to have duplicate items, right? Even a tuple allows you, but a set will not allow any duplicate item. If I have two threes in a set, it will automatically remove one of them and save the first three, right? Now, in a dictionary, values can be a multiple, like can be duplicates, but keys cannot. So, in the previous example, I can have two particular fields that have Ford as their entry, but there can only be one brand. And there cannot be two brands. Of course, an item cannot have two sort of types of brands, right? Perfect. Whereas two cars can share the same brand. Perfect. So this is the difference. So we have sort of this as well, that set and dictionary. Yes, Muskan, I will focus on that in a second. Just give me the slide, right? So you can see that a list can be used among all. So a list can be used under a list. Tuple can also have a list inside it. A set can have a list inside it. Dictionary can have a list inside it. So can tuple. So can set. So can dictionary. But not all of them say see a tuple. Like I'll show that in a couple of seconds. But inside a tuple you cannot have several items. You cannot have a tuple, right? Now here you can see the next one is that another way to convert one type to another is if say I want to convert a tuple into a list, I simply write list bracket the tuple. Then the tuple becomes the list, like the type is shifted. And when I go to the code screen, I will show that to you. And then we will look at one of the most important features, mutable and immutable. What does that mean? Right? So immutable means that we cannot change individual values, right? So let's say that I have a value, say 1 2 3 4. In a list I can say that change the 2 to a 10, so it will become 1 10 3 4. But in a tuple I cannot change that value. I can change the entire tuple if I want. I can sort of replace the entire tuple with 1 10 2 4 separately, but I cannot change individual values, right? This is what is immutable and mutable. This is the major difference between a tuple and a list, right? So these are the differences between types. Now, Muskan, your question is, what is the difference between sets and dictionary, right? So a set is simply a structure of data where it cannot be duplicated, right? A dictionary, you can say that a dictionary is sort of a set, but each entry has a value. So each entry is treated as a key and has a value. So it is very similar to your real dictionary, that English dictionary. When you open it, you can look for words, and every word will have a meaning. I'm sorry, Achinta, I think you'll have to mute. Correct. So yeah. So yeah, as I was saying that in our dictionary, every word has a meaning, right? So the word becomes the key, and its meaning becomes the value, right? So a set with values is a dictionary. Does that make sense, Muskan? I will show that to you in a second, and it'll be clear then. Perfect. 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 Right. So now let us look into lists, right? So this is the again an example list, and you can see that there's a string, there's a number, there's a true false boolean here, there's another number. So you can see that several type of items can be used together in a list, right? Now, personally speaking, I prefer the list. List is also what other languages people use. C in C, C++, and everywhere you use arrays. Consider list to be equivalent to an array, right? Now Python list is the structure that I almost always use. I do not use a lot of the others because I'm very comfortable with lists, but it depends on what you are sort of good and comfortable with, right? Now list can be used from any for any type of object, and people who are with us from the first session or the second session even, you remember that we used to do string slicing and concatenating and sort of joining string and printing a part of the string and all of those. So every word is sort of acts like a list, act like a list, and that is how we use it, right? And that is how we function with lists as well. So let me show you some functions here. So we can, I will show all of them. I'll code all of them in just a minute in the code frame, but I'll just show it to you. So we can add items, we can remove items, we can insert items to a specific index that is on second position enter hello. So it goes here. We can pop items, that means delete items from index. This deletes the item from value. So this means that when I put remove and anything I put in the bracket, it looks for that value, searches for it and removes it. When I say pop, it will look for the value on index number 2, right? 0 1 2, it looks for index number 2 and it deletes it, right? Here you can see sort list in ascending order. This would just list, like sort the list thing. As it is say 66 3 4, it becomes 3 4 66, right? Even here in I'm so sorry, I've rewritten ascending twice, but this is a descending order, right? So reverse, so it becomes 66 4 3. Counting counts the number of times this value is present. So 3 is present once in list 2, that is why we have a 1. Dot reverse simply reverses the list, and index of item simply searches for that item and gives you the index of the first, that is the position of the first. Let me show you all of this and you'll have a very good idea of it, right? So let's say I have a list 1 and it is equal to, let's say, 1 comma 44 comma 5, right? And let us now do some stuff to this, right? So let us say I say list 1 dot append. Append simply means that add to the end, right? That is how you should take it. So if I append say 50 500 and like let 555, right? And let me print list 1, right? So you'll be able to see that now in the list we had 144 and 5. Now we've simply added a 555 to it, right? So this is how append would work. Now let us say that I want to insert 555 here between 1 and 4. So what I do is I put an insert, I put the index first, that is 0 1 1 comma 555, and I print. So you'll be able to see that, of course, we have the older one on it again. And you'll be able to see that now 555 comes in the at index number 1, right? This is insert. Now, if I want to remove 555, what I do is I say remove 555. So now it will remove 555 and print it for me. Now let's say I want to remove the value at index number 1. I use pop and I put index number 1 and you'll see that 44 will vanish, right? So this is how popping would work. Now what else was there? Let me look at sort. Okay, so let us sort this. So 144 5 will become 1 and 5 1 5 and 44, if you will very clearly see 1 5 44, right? Now if I want to sort in a reverse manner, I know I am sort of going a little fast here, but I'm just covering the basics, covering the functions. These functions will be used in all the other data structures as well. So you will get a short revision, and of course I will put the link to this document in the WhatsApp group. You can sort of go through it and understand exactly uh, how do all of these work, and you can use this as a cheat sheet maybe, right? So we sorted in a reverse manner. Now let's say I want to count the number of times I have won. Let me put say 1 1 1 1. I have put say a lot of 1 zeros, right? So now let me count how many ones I have, and it should print it for me. Let me sort of save this to a variable. Let me print that variable. Right. See, so we have 6 ones. That is 1 2 3 4 5 6. So here it counted the number of ones that I have. Now, very important thing is when I use find, oh sorry, index. When I use index, it prints 0. Though there are several other ones, but it prints the index of the earliest one. So earliest one is at index 0. That is why it prints 0, right? Is this clear to everyone? Are lists clear to everyone? I would love to say if anyone just turns on their mic or sort of puts it in the chat. Thank you so much, Muska. Wonderful. Like, are the others clear as well? Anyone? Devika, Manjiri, Nikhil, Lavish, Achintya, Sanya, Priya, Nitin, Agnes, Kunal, Ishita, Suvanjan, Ramandeep, Gaurav, Ronak. Are all of you clear as well?
Sir, can you please repeat index?
Okay,
Okay.
right. So speak up. Don't wait for me to ask you. Just speak up, everyone. Right. So now index, what it means is whatever value I put in the bracket, it will search for that value in the list and tell me at what position it is. So let's say I put a 5 here, right? So it would print where 5 is. So 5 is at 0, 1, and 2. That is why I can see a 2 is printed, right? Is this clear to you now, Chintya?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So this is how a list would work. Now let us look at tuples, right? So in a tuple, you can store multiple values as a single variable as you do with lists. They are written with round brackets. They are ordered, that means the orders are saved. They allow duplicate values and they are unchangeable. So what do we mean? As you can see, there are several errors on the screen. Why is that, right? So you can see when I try to add items, it doesn't allow me. When I try to remove items, it doesn't allow me. When I try to insert items to an index, it doesn't allow me. Again, when I delete an index, it doesn't allow me. It does allow me to say print, delete a complete tuple. It allows me, but of course, now when I print tuple, it gives me an error because tuple 2 does not exist. I can count an item in a tuple. Yes, Priya, unchangeable. Do you have a query about unchangeable? And the error is perfect, perfect. Yes, Priyam, you're right. So it is because the tuple as a data structure is unchangeable. That is why we see an error, right? Now, if we find index, yes, Muskan, it means immutable. Not instead of unmutable, it becomes immutable, and of course, both of them are the same thing. But unchangeable is sort of easier for everyone to understand. And once we sort of go to the next session, we will look at even hashing, that is hashable, unhashable, and immutable and mutable, right? And then it will be very clear to you when to use which, right? Now, is everyone clear with the functions of tuples that we have done here? I will show you the code version. Yes. Yes, Oscar. Perfect. And please don't call me sir. It's fine. Call me Aryan. It will be great. Right. So this is how tuples work, right? And I'm assuming this is clear to everyone. So I'll just show all of these things in code as well. Right. So let's say I put tuple one is equal to normal brackets. I say 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. A lot of values. Right? Now what I do is I try to add tuple dot append. Now as we did in the list, I'll append a one to the end, and I will print tuple one. I think I missed a one. Right. So once I do that, I will see that there's an error that tuple object has no attribute append. It is not allowing me to append, right? Same goes for remove and everything else as I showed you a couple of seconds ago. Even if I look at say sort, right? So you cannot a lot of things in tuple cannot be done. So here, if I want to say add append a number 10 to the end, I cannot do it. The only way, there are a couple of ways to do it, and I will show them to you. So one way is that you again define tuple one and you put in the value and you manually put 10 here. This is not the best way, but this is sort of something that will work. Another way is that you make the tuple a list, right? And then you append a dot append 10, and then you convert, then you make tuple 1 equals to tuple a. So if like this is not the best way to do it, but if you very clearly as you'll see, this does work. But what we're doing is sort of making the tuple into a list because that is mutable. We add the value 10 and then we convert it again to a tuple. This is a very bad way to do things. To be very honest, I am yet to find a situation where tuple is the only thing you can use, right? So I sort of stay away from tuples. Again, as I said, I focus on and I work with lists in general because tuples are very restrictive. Plus, it is very difficult for you to sort of remember every single thing about tuples, right? So that is why we use lists generally and we convert and do all of this. This is a joke. Like nobody in their right mind would be every time you want to add or remove something, you convert
Excuse
something
me,
and
sir.
come back, right? Yes,
So
Ronak.
one thing I want to ask, this third statement which you have written, tuple one is equal to tuple bracket a. Can you
Yes.
explain it once again? What's the purpose of that?
Correct. I was planning on going towards this when I'm done with all data structures, but I'll show it to you. So let us say that I have a list, right? A1, comma 2, comma 3, right? Now I will, let me do this. Okay? Type of A. A is a list, right? Now what I do is B is equal to tuple of A. What this does is it converts the list to a tuple. So now when I put in type of B, it will give me a tuple. You'll be able to see. Yeah. So though when I print this, it will still give me the same value, but you can very clearly see that now it has round brackets, whereas here it had square brackets, right? So we converted from a list to a tuple. Now let us say that we had a tuple that is b, that is 4 comma 5 comma 6 comma 7, right? Let me print b comma type of b. So here I'll very clearly see that this is 4 5 6 7 and it is tuple, right? Now if I want to create it into a list, I simply do a list of b, and I do the same thing here. Let's say I print, right? And
So it more or less works like a list. But
see,
then what is the purpose between the two? Means two are different things.
correct. So that is what we were discussing. Lists is, I am yet to find a reason why to use tuple every time. And this list and tuple that we use outside the bracket, this is to change the type, right? We can use the same thing to convert to set and dictionary as well. I will show that to you. Of course, set you can do very simply, dictionary is a bit complex. But they are not the same thing. Like tuples do not allow you to change values in the middle, change specific values in it. List allows you to do it, right? There are a couple of other changes as well that are very similar to this, but these are changes that are, let's say, very like not does not give a compelling reason to use tuple. So I would again suggest to everyone that try to use lists, because that is the easiest and most modifiable, I think, because they have least number of rules. But yeah, right. And does that clear your doubt, Ronak?
Yes, I did.
Perfect, perfect. Right. So this is how you convert from in list to a tuple as well. Now we will look into sets, and then I will also look into dictionary. Right. So sets will store multiple items, again data structure, right? Return with curly brackets. Items are unordered, that means order will change when you print. I'll show that to you in a second. Unchangeable as well, and duplicate values are not ordered, right? Now let's say we can add values to a list. You can remove items. You can find if one set is subset of the other or superset of the other. You can find the intersection and the difference between them. So union also works and difference also works. So this is sort of how sets would work. So if any one of you has sort of taken sets and functions or sets and relations in mathematics, you would know of these rules. Let me show them in the code and it will be very, very clear with you, right? So let's say I say set 1 is equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3, right? And set 2 is equal to 3 comma 4 comma 5. Now when I print them, just look at what happens. Print set 1, and also let's print set 2. Right. So we have printed the set, and even if I put say another 3 and another 5 6 and 1 5 here, just look at what will happen, right? I'm sorry, right? When I print, I would still have 3 4 5 6, right? Does this make sense to everyone? Duplicate values are removed. Does it make sense? Correct. So this is how sets would work. Now let's say that I want to add a value to the set. So in list we used to append. Here we simply write add, because append would add it in, and in set there is no defined order. That is why we simply put add, and I say put 200 here in set one. Right? And once I run this and I say print set one as well, you'll be able to see that we've added 1 2 3 and 200. Right? Similarly, if I had added say 1, it would not give me any difference, because it would, like, there is already a 1, so it would not put a duplicate value, right? Even if I say put 4, then it would add a 4 value there. 1 2 3 4 into 100, right? So does this make sense to everyone, like adding items? Let me, like, remove would work fairly simply. It would just delete the value. Difference is something that I'll show to you. So set 1 dot difference, set 2. This would sort of give me the different and distinct values that we have. Oh, so sorry, that we have in set 2 and 1, right? So let's see. See, so in set 2 and set 1, let me sort of print them from the top, right? So you have these here, and let me show this. and you have 1, 2, 3, and 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, when I put this gives me all the values that are present in set 1 but not in set 2. Right now, if I put it set 2 and set 1, you'll see values that are in set 2 and set 1. Exactly. So, Muskan, you're right. Nothing in a set, duplicate values cannot be present. There can only be one of each, right? So this is how the difference works. Now let's say I put set 1 dot intersection set 2. Now this is something that you guys can skip if you don't if you're not interested in this. This will be required in some mathematical questions, but not very. So intersection gives us values that are common. So as you can very clearly see in these two, 3 is a common value. That is why 3 is printed here. Now if I put union here, it will give me all the values that are common or uncommon. That is, just give me all the values present in these two sets, right? Now, apart from the intersection, so a subset. So, is subset gives me if say set one is a subset of set two. Let me give you a better. So it gives you false. But let's say I have a set three that is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So we can clearly see that 1, 2, 3 is a part of this. So now let us do set one dot is subset of set 3. It is a true because all values, subset means that all values of set 1 have to be present in set 3. So you can see 1, 2 and 3, and in set 3 we can very clearly see that 1, 2 and 3 are present. That is why set 1 is a subset of set 3. And if we can even look at superset, so we can say that set 3 dot superset is set 1. So it would tell me that set 3 is a superset of set 1, right? Oh, sorry, is superset, right? So these are true. So is everyone clear with how sets work? Perfect, perfect. Others as well? Any doubts? Okay, so we have a couple of yeses. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I'm happy it's clear to everyone. Now we look at dictionary. So dictionary is something that you can use. And once we look at nested data structures, it will sort of make more sense to you that how a sort of dictionary is relevant. But now let us look into how dictionaries work and how do we actually use them. So as we mentioned earlier, they are structured. They are created in the same manner as sets with curly brackets. And if you can look at the dictionary examples, you can see that one is the key and the one written in the word is the value. So goes for 2 and 3 and then 3, 4, 5, right? Even in dictionaries, the numeric values that are the keys here, they can of course be words as well, but the keys here cannot be duplicated, but the values can, right? So if we want to print only all the keys, they are printed as a list and they are sort of a list. The keys and values are lists and it sort of becomes keys to value, keys to value, keys to value. There are two recurring lists, right? So if we print all the keys, we get 1, 2, 3. If we print all values, we get 1, 2, 3 in words, of course, right? If you want to add any value, we simply put dictionary, the index, and give it a value. So key and value, and it is automatically added to the dictionary. If you want to change the value, we do update, we do this, and put the new value. So now 1, 2, 3 becomes 1, 2, 3, try, 1, 2, try, right? In empty, if you want to clear the dictionary completely, we simply do dict dot clear and it deletes everything. If you want to delete a specific value, we put dict dot pop and we put the key inside it and it deletes the complete key value pair, right? Is this clear to everyone? I'll show you the code in implementation now. So let's say, let me take some random names. Let's say a Nikhil. Nikhil is the key. Nikhil, just tell me how old are you? Nikhil, tell me your age. Let me name this age. 23. Oh, okay, perfect. Right. So age is the dictionary that we're using. So Nikhil is 23. Now, Muskan, you tell me your age. 18. Perfect. Now, who do I ask? Who do I ask? Who do I ask? Okay, Devika. Devika, what is your age?
16.
16. Okay, perfect. Well, it's very nice that you're learning at such a young age. Great. Right. Achintya, what is your age?
So my age is 9.
Wonderful. Great. Right. So may I take a couple of more ages? Agnes, what is your age?
34.
34. Perfect. So we have a lot of people here. I'm very happy we have such a varying age group here. Wonderful. We all can learn a lot from each other. Perfect. So we have all the ages here. This is our dictionary, which consists of all the names of people and the age. Okay, I'll put my name here as well. So Aryan and I am 20. Right. So this is everything, right? We have all the names and all the ages. Now, if I want to say print, let's say we have only a couple of names here. Let's say we have the name of every person in the entire city. We have hundreds of thousands of names here, right? Now, if I say have everyone's name, the complete full name. If I say want to find the age of, let's say, Devika, so what I do is I simply type Devika and I put, no, sorry, yeah, I put this, and when I run this, this should print the age of Devika, that is 16, right? Now, if I say I want to print age of Achintya, right? Of course, I'll have to put this in quotes, right? So it should give me 9, right? So this is how I access values in a dictionary, right? Now, let's say we have Sania here, right? Sania, what is your age?
I'm 13.
Oh, wonderful. So we have a lot of young people here. Great. So let's say Sanya is 13, right? So I put this here and I run this. This should give me, what did I do? Oh, sorry. Equals to 4. This should work. Oh, I'm so sorry. You were 13, right? Right.
Yeah.
Now let me print age. So now we have added Sanya to our dictionary and we also have her age as 13 here, right? So this is how dictionaries actually work. These are the base things that you can do with dictionary. There are several other ways where you can say you can sort them based on ages. There are several other things you can do. Now let us say I want to change the age of, let's say I want to change the age of Aryan. Okay, so let me change my own age. So age dot what do you update. I'm sorry, as I said, I rarely use dictionary. In case of instead of a dictionary, I use a 2D list. That is the way I work. So I'm not very sort of good with this, right? So let's say Aryan. Now I put this Aryan is to okay. Aryan is to 100. Okay, so I'm 100 years old, and I put this here, and then if I print age, you'll be able to see the updated value. Right? See, so now I'm 100 years old. So we have all the values here. So does this make sense to everyone? Do dictionaries in general make sense to everyone? Perfect. If there are any queries, because today's session, we like the learning part, that is something that we just completed, right? We've just completed it. And nested data structure is something that we'll look into the next session, right? So you guys tell me, and then we will start with the hands-on session, right? And I'll sort of explain small rules and things that I need to tell you. If there are any queries, just turn on your microphones. I would appreciate if you could just speak to me to make the session a lot more fun. Tell me if you have any queries, any doubts, anything you want me to teach apart from what we did today. You want something extra to be done? Anything? Just simply let me know. I will do it. You can. Okay, so I don't think we have a lot of queries now. So now this is the time for a hands-on session, right? So let me show you what I want everyone to make. I want everyone to create a list or any data structure of your choice, structure of choice, and put in questions. So you have to put in 5 questions, and let me first give a title to what we're making. So maybe you guys are interested, right? So that will sort of right. So we are going to sort of generate a pizza ordering system. We are going to ask user for inputs, and we are storing all the questions in a sort of a data structure, and we will use that to ask questions and prepare their order. And once they give us the order, we're going to print it in a receipt format so that everyone understands it, right? The one who does it the fastest wins this, right? And the 5 questions are just for the first round of evaluation. You show me 5 questions, good. Then I want you to sort of try with 10 questions, and no fundamental difference, but yeah. So the way you'll do it for people who don't like are sort of trying to understand and grasp everything, you put in 10 questions in a list or whatever, and you sort of cycle through them using a for loop. I will show how that works in a second, and it'll be very easy for you guys. And you'll take inputs, right, and use and store the value of the input in an array, right, in a list, and then use that to create a sort of a, let's say, a receipt. So you put in 10 questions, ask from user, save input in a DS. DS is a data structure. Print complete order details, i.e. receipt. Right. So this is what we are trying to do. So how do you do it? Let me sort of give you a small example. I will do it with 2 questions, so it makes sense for you. And it is a very very easy thing to do. Nothing very difficult. The questions you have to think on your own, right? But they're going to be fairly simple. I'm going to help you with the first 2 questions. So let's say, as I said, I love to work with lists, so that is what I will be using. But anyone is like welcome to use whatever you want. You want to use a dictionary, anything works, right? So this is going to be the initial level of this. Next week, we're going to do a more complex version of the same question, right? So let's say the questions are, hello, let's say, what is your name, right? And I give them this. And the second question is, please tell me your registered mobile number. Right, these are the 2 questions that we're working with. I'm only going with 2 questions, you can go with multiple, right? Then what I do is for I in, I put directly questions. So what it would do is that for I would, for like, I'll show that to you once, how what I mean. I would sort of I would become every value in the question. So first it will become what is your name, then it will become please tell me. So let's say I'll just print I and show it to you. See, so we'll have what is your name, and now please tell me your registered mobile number, right? So these are the questions that we're going with. Now, to take input, all of us know, let me now create another list saying answers, and it's empty. So now what I do, I input is, now I input, let's say I is what I ask, and I store it in a variable A. Then I answers dot append A, right? So what this will do is that it will, let me show you how this will work, right? This is a very simple problem. It does take a little bit of time to sort of get used to the syntax, but it's easy. So let's say Aryan, and my phone number is 75074425, right? And imagine this is a phone call between you and Domino's, maybe. So how do you order it, right? So that is what you're trying to simulate. Now, when I say answers, it must show me the answers that are submitted. Aryan and this. So till now we're taking only one response, and the next time we run it, we will sort of it will empty everything. But we'll try to solve that. Now, once we've taken response, how do we print it? We say that we of course know that the first value of answers is the name of the customer. So we say RN0. Let's say I print everything. Print, right? RN0, answer 0 has ordered pizza. His registered number is comma answers answers 1, right? And let me put the quotes, right? So this would sort of give me a complete sentence. This is not a receipt, but even if we do this today, this should be more than enough for us, right? It will give us a good idea of how do we work. Yeah, galas quotation. I'm so sorry, I put the quotation at the wrong place. But yeah, so when I print, like you can see Aryan has ordered a pizza, his registered number is this. Right. So this is what I want you to do. This is all I want you to do. But instead of 2 questions, there'll be 10 questions here. And in the sentence, it will be a 10 sort of 10 value long sentence. Right. So now you begin, it is 5:48 and we will wait till 6. And whoever does it the first become the top performer for this session, and you will be of course mentioned in the next session as today Priyam was. And again, congratulations Priyam. And also we are creating a list of all the top performers for all the weeks. So we had I think Ishita is here as well. So Ishita was the top performer last week. That is week 2. Week 3 is Priyam, and you can be sort of week 4, right? And once we're done with the basics, we will be releasing and sending this as a PDF to everyone that registered for the event, right? So you guys can start doing it, and I would love to see some work coming out, right? So all the best, everyone. And if there is any query, just let me know. If you want to see the syntax once again, I'll show that to you as well. So this is how we are doing it, and this is the question that I will put in the chat, right? Perfect. So is it clear to everyone? Just turn on your mics and let me know.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Perfect. Wonderful. I would love to see some work coming out. Like, I'm very excited because we have such a young crowd here as well, and we have people from all the age groups. It feels like we're going to get some good and innovative results. Right? Go ahead and do it quickly. And till then, I will share the link to the WhatsApp group and the feedback form in the chat. And you guys can sort of please, I would appreciate if you fill in the feedback and if there's anything that you want me to improve or something. So we'll do that. So I've put the link to the WhatsApp group that is specific to our courses and the schedule of courses, and also the feedback form. If any of your friends want to join, send them the link for Insider or Eventbrite, or simply the link to the WhatsApp group, and they can join it, and we can have them here as well in the next session. Agreed. So this was for many people, this was the first class and welcome. So what I have done is that every session till now, we've recorded the last session. I think I missed the first couple of minutes, but that is fine. We didn't cover a lot. And I've also had the presentation that I presented today and the presentation that I keep making every week. I have all of those in a GitHub repository where I've put in not only the presentation but also the sort of the snapshots that we capture at the end of the class and everything. So it sort of makes a good experience for everyone who is attending, and sort of they can revise and you can have your friends look at it and new people can look at it, right? So Muskan, you can simply open this link, like both of them. The first one is the playlist where we have the first 3 lectures, and the fourth lecture will also be uploaded either today or tomorrow. And also the GitHub link will give you link to sort of my profile. So if anyone wants to look at it, you can, and also it gives you access to the PDF files. Right? Does this answer your question, Muskan? Perfect. Sorry, perfect. Also, I received a sort of a query from a few people who weren't very comfortable using WhatsApp for one-to-one communication with me specifically. So I have simply put my LinkedIn profile in the chat. You can connect with me and message me that that is the only social media that I'm very active on. Also, I'm sort of active on Instagram, but that is sort of an informal profile, right? Ishita, you're done. Um, right. So I would love to see your work. You can, I think, I'll give access for you to share your screen. Others as well. Hurry, I think, because Ishita is already the top performer once. I think I would love to see more people here as well. Yes, Ishita, you can share your screen.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me know once you can see.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I can.
So these are the 10 questions. Do you want me to
Okay.
simulate it?
Yeah, just fill in some details.
Mm. And then this
Perfect.
shows the list.
Perfect. So you printed this. Have you also printed this as a sentence in the like in the next line or something?
No, I've not added a sentence yet.
Right. So just create a sort of a receipt or a sentence printing here, and well done. One thing that I would sort of recommend is that whenever you add a question in input, what happens is that the numbers sort of stick to the question. If you can see, what would you like to order the
Yeah.
pizza stuff? So I like to sort of put a colon and a space or simply a space, so it sort of makes it more readable, right? But otherwise, well
Yeah,
done.
you
You've done the task
mean
well.
to say after this, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just
Like
simply
before
add a
the.
space here
Okay.
or a colon here, and it will work.
Okay.
Colon here and it'll work. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Well done, though. You've done the task well. Others as well, I would love to see your work. We have 5 minutes to go. If there's anyone who wants to sort of share their screen, I would appreciate it. And before everyone sort of leaves, will it be possible for all of you to just turn on your cameras once so that we can take a small picture and it'll be like something that I can save? Would really appreciate if you guys could. Correct. So is anyone else done? Even if not, again, I would like if all of you could just share your like turn your cameras on. Like I want to take a little picture. I do that every single session, and I sort of keep it with the presentation and save it for everyone to see. If everyone could just turn on their cameras, please. Ishita, Sanya, Sanya just turned it on. Wonderful. Avishkar, Agnes, Devika, Nikhil, Priyam, Gaurav, Kunal, Suvanjan, Muskan, please. If you guys could just turn on your cameras. Please, please. Thank you. I can see one more face. Wonderful. Others as well, please. Okay. Hi. Uh, others too, please. It's going to be a fairly sad picture. Sure, let me take this. Thank you so much, people who actually turn on their cameras. That was wonderful. Others as well, if you guys want to sort of be a part of the picture, turn it on again. Otherwise, if you want to show me your work, do that. Like share your screen and show it to me. And people who are already done, if you have any queries, other people as well, if you have any queries, you can ask me. Otherwise, you guys can start leaving. Right? I'll just stop the recording.